spinning. Hello, and it looks like we are now live. Brian and Chris here. Chris coming off of a couple of vacations. Also, you had to fight a cold last week.
I did get sick.
And my mom ended up getting rushed to the ER, but thankfully she is okay now. So last week ended up being a little bit of a pivot. So I'm glad you're feeling better, and I'm glad my mom is too. What are you doing? What are you playing? How is life, my friend?
Life is hopeful. We're on the rise. My Jeep over the last month has broken down 5 times, and I am now over 300 miles with it just starting when I turn the key and driving, and you just put regular gas in it, and then it just goes, and it's no issue or thought. And like, I still get nervous sometimes when I park somewhere. I'm like, is this where I'm staying? Like, I pick parking spaces based on like, what would it be like to tow me here?
Yeah. Is this a towable position?
Is this a towable, like let's leave the fancier, like always runs cars to the closer spots. Like those I'm going to park out.
Yeah. Those privileged people over there, they could park where they want.
Can I park between the businesses in case I need to leave it here overnight so that neither business tows me? Like, is that an option?
Yeah.
And then I walk back out to my car and it just starts. So,
so
that's done. And then really fancy, the water main on our house, in old houses, they're made out of cast iron.
Mm-hmm.
And basically that cast iron rusts. And much like a human, after 50, 60, 70 years, your plumbing kind of sucks. And depending on how well you've maintained it, your plumbing might slowly clog. And then you just don't have the right amount of flow to whatever system is clogging. In this case, the main water pipe to my whole house. So it got to the point where, like, if you flush the toilet, you couldn't wash your hands for like 4 minutes. So you should wash your hands first and then flush the toilet. And like,
and
somebody showering, your hands. They're like standing under like a little dribble, and nobody else can do anything. Now, like, my wife can be watering the garden, and we can have clothes in the washer, and I could take a shower. And if she came in, she could leave that watering garden and wash her hands, and then like flush all the toilets, all 2 of them at the same time. Like, and so just $7,000 fixes that.
There you go. Just like another.
You just pour money all the way over the cast iron, and then it just
a casual 7. Like
they did the whole front yard up. It's a huge mess. They have to cut the driveway because our driveway comes across that, and so then they have to patch the driveway. So like it's a whole thing. It gets inspected by the city, so it takes like a whole week out of your life where let's just live without water.
Right.
That's not better. And then the AC system had a little scare, but we seem to be making it through it. And I think we only have like a couple more weeks.
How old's your AC system?
So my AC system is rated at a solid 10 to 13 years, which is great because it's 18.
Okay. Yeah. It's like we were in that same absolute boat with our AC. Yeah. We were like, let's
every year we say one more summer.
One more summer. Come on, buddy. Come on. You're out there like talking to it.
I'll do whatever you ask. One more.
You're a good AC unit. Yeah.
So what happens as they get older is they struggle to spin. Everything starts to corrode and bind. And the amount of electricity in the capacitor that gets saved up to start it won't start it. So there's what's called a hard start kit. You can bolt to the outside, and it's kind of like the paddles you see, the defib paddles. And so every time it starts, if it detects that it's given it all the energy it can and it can't start, this big hard start kit just zaps it, like the defib paddles that are like on the wall in the mall.
Yeah.
Except like that's like its everyday occurrence. So imagine if I just woke you up with those paddles every day. And it's just like that's the life of my AC unit. Like it's not great. The poor guy's getting zapped 20 times a day. Every time it kicks on, just
I don't know about you though. Like here in Texas, it's been actually a wonderful 95 degrees, and it's been so hot that 95 degrees has us outside. We're like, well, this isn't that bad.
Like I went for a long run because it was 88 this morning.
Like, holy smokes,
I should enjoy the brisk.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I might have to put a jacket on.
How did you not catch a cold, sir?
That's probably why I got sick. I was probably out.
That's
I was probably out in like 84 or something.
You cannot handle.
I wasn't
80s.
Bundled up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those 80s, man. Yep. Yeah. So with your truck repaired, my truck's working. So we both now have 2 operational vehicles, which is great. Also with your water main, does that now spare you up some time to game And if so, or if that's a part of your future soon, like what does that look like for you? What are you either playing or what are you looking forward to be playing here as we enter into September, crazy September? Because we are a gaming podcast.
You know, I hear
Brian and Chris talk about like the real life trucks.
There's a little game coming out today that a few people have been excited about.
A tiny game is launching, I hear, right? Yeah.
And I've been intrigued by this game. I'm still not entirely sure what it is, and people always like answer me what it is and assume that answer is sufficient, and I still have questions.
Yeah.
But since I don't like to be spoiled, I never get answers to the questions. So I believe Starfield drops today.
It does. For those who are either, so it's interesting because there's like I'd love to hear your perspective on it. Let's do a slight pivot. Magic Moose Moo wants to say, do you still play Final Fantasy 14? Yes, he's still playing Final Fantasy 14. And I'm once I lose 100 pounds, I will hopefully be playing Dawn Trail myself, but we're still making progress, making really good. I'm growing out my beard, so you're
probably excited that it's not dropping in like March.
Oh yeah, dude. I was like, at least
extra time
gives me a little bit extra buffer in that window. But yeah, I've been growing out the beard, so y'all can't see actually how skinny my face has gotten. So it will be like I'm really gonna be like, and shocker, and people will be like, holy crap, you lost a lot of weight real quick. It's like, no, I'm losing a lot of weight slowly, but it's still coming up. But anyway, so yeah, to answer that question, so the pricing model for getting into Starfield today would be either you bought the premium edition, or you upgraded. They have an upgrade option for Game Pass, because all Game Pass players have this on September the 6th, but they're offering you an upgrade. So if you did not decide to buy the license to the game, you can buy an upgrade. You can just buy the
how much is that upgrade?
License. $30.
Okay. So, and that gives me access to that game.
That
for
gives
7
you
extra
access
days.
to that day. Now, and that's the thing though. Like when it comes
on our rule, you have to play 30 hours in the first week.
You better wait. You better, yeah. Especially because paying that $30 later doesn't get you that 7 days. It's not like it's a limited time window, and that's the kind of excitement. Now, I've decided I purchased the games flat out on Steam because I was like, you know what, I'm playing on PC. I haven't purchased any kind of upgrade to the console version, but I will if I go out and play the PC version tonight and I'm like, oh, I'm now dying to play it on my Series X, then yes, because it's got that beautiful cross save.
Yeah, you have to buy it on both. You wouldn't just wait the week for Game Pass to bring it to the other
meaning like if I was absolutely dead set on like I want to sit down on the couch and play this with Julie, then yes, but that's going to depend on how I play
60 hours in 1 week.
That's a lot of hours, dude.
That's a lot of hours.
But
that's a lot of hours. You're gonna get paid overtime for that.
We'll see.
I think that's how games work.
And typically with how I get my time to game, it's like, hey, here's your 8 hours a week. All right, I'm front loading them all. So I'm gonna be playing that some tonight, and then I'm taking actually tomorrow off work. Yeah, I'll be live. I'll be live pre-launch, and then we'll be going into the game, and then we'll be I'll be live tomorrow as well for a little bit, playing, because I took tomorrow off work because I was like, you know what, I don't need servers. I'm not worried about not playing because everybody in the world is trying to play right now, and we're all trying to log into the same shared world. So I'm pretty excited.
Does it support VR?
I have no idea.
It looks like a game that I would love to play in VR.
I have a VR unit. I do not know.
It looks like a game. No Man's Sky does. Elite Dangerous does. Like a lot of these games with this kind of aesthetic and this kind of theme feel really good in VR.
Yeah. I have no idea. So maybe chat can chat saying not at launch. Thank you, Framsy, you freaking legend. I was like, I honestly don't know, because like VR for me is always just it still makes me sick, and so I don't have the high. Honestly, I'm not against it. I would be looking at like what high-end unit do I need so that it can defeat this like just general motion sickness that it gives me.
So I have 2 units. I have the Quest, the little lizard man's cheap version.
Yeah.
And then I have the Rift, like the big honkin' version.
Yeah.
And
I got the Rift one.
And so the Rift is substantially better than the Quest when you get into games where there's a lot of like, I don't know how to describe it, like asymmetrical movement, where like something is unnatural. Like something is, so when I'm in space and like if they disable an engine, I'm going to like just suddenly barrel roll unexpectedly to the left outside of my own control.
Yeah.
That feels a lot better in the Rift than the Quest.
Yeah.
I don't get a lot of motion sickness. So like, it's just something I'm kind of aware of. And so like, I would suggest to like people like my wife who get a lot of motion sickness, don't touch VR unless you're gonna. It's kind of like scotch. Like, don't drink cheap scotch. Either just don't drink scotch or get the good stuff.
Drink
like,
scotch.
Yeah. Don't halfway do it.
Don't half-ass this, guys.
So that would be my suggestion.
I was like, as one of the things I was curious about is like, I want to try out the Index or something like that, like one of the real, like the high end, but I don't really have the space and the lifestyle for it right now, especially because like the hardest part for me in VR ends up being that it is very isolating because that's the whole point, right? But like, I've got little kids walking around and things like that, and I don't need to be a grown man flailing my arm, punch my
isolating in the same way that when the internet was new, it was isolating. When the internet was brand new, when you were a kid and you had to like shut off the landline to get on, you were locked in a room waiting on these web pages to load. And so it was seen as this like antisocial thing. Now, decades later, the internet opens up doors for a lot of people, especially if you live in remote geographic areas, or if you're trying to look for a specific group of people and your immediate area doesn't offer that, people that share the same interests or whatever, like it can actually open the world for you a little bit. Right. It runs the risk of like echo chambers, but like there is a much more social element to it now. So I wonder if VR right now is going through that same stage where like it feels, I assume the people who drove the first cars were no longer as comfortable around the people who were still on the horseless carriages. I assume that was a very isolating thing. It's like nobody else can relate to you having to like crank your motor up in the morning.
It's like I heard a quote today that it made me really laugh out loud. And there's nothing more hilarious than a multimillionaire try to cast shame on a billionaire. Like, both of y'all are out of touch. It's like both of y'all have no concept about what it is to be a regular human being, and you got a multimillionaire. Oh, you have $100 million? Yeah, F those billionaires.
my new job, I work with millionaires all the time.
Yeah.
And it's like, perspective is, so I have a friend of mine who does very well. And he's done very well because he's done everything right at every stage. And like, life is preparedness meets opportunity. He's been given a disproportionate number of opportunities, but so have a bunch of other people, and they haven't had his same result. So to his credit, he has always done the right things. He's always saved his money. He's always invested it carefully. He's never done anything reckless. When we were in high school together, he's one of my only remaining high school friends. Our friend group all called him Grandpa, just because he was just such like a old conservative, like, I don't think we should be doing that, guys. Like, it just, everything has to be done the right way. And he's done everything right. And he went to a good school and of course had a scholarship because he'd done everything right prior to that. And as he's getting to that point, like the other day, he sits in the same circle as the people that like I work with. And because he's done well, he's worth a lot more than me. And he said, he's like, I just feel like I can't keep up. I just feel like I'm behind. I just feel like it's easy to lose that perspective because he's still aware of all the people ahead of him. Right. Even though it's like, 100 people ahead of him and like 200,000 behind him. Like, right. And it's like, but look at them all up there. It's like, we see them every time we look past you. Like,
you're a lot closer to them. You can see them much
clearer.
Stop and
turn around every once in a while.
Yeah, please.
Because I think you're not giving credit to the amount of things you've done right to this point.
Yeah. Quick shout out. Thank you guys so much for the likes here on the stream. If you guys are new to the channel, my name is Brian. This is Chris. We run Work to Game together. Chris has been moving content to Thursdays, and we do this podcast as often as we can here on Thursdays as well. And we appreciate you guys coming in and being here and chatting with us, whether you're on Twitch.
Videos today.
The goal is to make videos today. Fantastic. I know you got a couple of podcasts that you've recorded that are kind of like in the hopper, so we're going to see those getting ready to rock and roll out into more like that. But pivoting back to the conversation about Starfield, because you obviously have some like main questions, and to give everybody some history for those of you who have just either need a kind of a little bit of a reminder or coming in for the first time, we were talking about, you and I were talking about Fallout 76. You're like, hey, is this a game that we want to check out? And I actually was more on the fence, and then Fallout 76 happened, and then it wasn't up to snuff and up to par. But one of the things that is interesting is that like the question I'd be kind of curious from your perspective is that, does this help erase that? Because the thing that they have done, the developers, they have supported it. In fact, people who are playing Fallout 76 right now say like, oh, they're having a lot of fun with that game. And so I think that's commendable, but it obviously, with the games as a service, it'd just have been better if they launched it when it was ready and not, launched it in the state that they did. Starfield is different. It isn't a games as a service. It's a classic Bethesda single player RPG. I think essentially this gives them, I think, an edge. And in terms of it, what do you think about that?
Bethesda is a company that like you should just give them money when you're confident that you can get your value before you have to give them more money.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're really not like, I love their products, but they're not one of the companies that like I give money and then trust it'll work out. Like, it's like, no, I need you to open the box. Like, do you have a favorite fast food restaurant that you order the food modified in some way? Like I order everything without cheese.
Okay. Yeah.
And there are certain locations near me that no matter how many times I've been there, they've screwed me enough times across the past that I sit in the drive-through lane and I let their I know I've worked in fast food. I know it's racking up their timer and it's dinging them on the points. Maybe you shouldn't have made so many mistakes in the past. And I open each wrapper up and I verify that there's no cheese before I drive away. And they're like, well, you can just pull forward. And if there's a problem, you can come inside. Then why did I go through the drive-through? No,
right.
You can wait. If you guys wouldn't make mistakes, I wouldn't have to do this. I don't want to be checking your work either. So I just sit there in my driver's seat while the person's yelling at me and I verify every hamburger doesn't have cheese on it or whatever. That's how I feel about Bethesda. And so that's how I feel about Starfield. So like we are.
Oh my gosh.
Specific locations.
Oh,
the one south of me, you can just drive away. You could burn rubber out of that.
I swore off McDonald's.
The one north of me,
yeah,
honestly, aren't entirely sure what cheese is. Like you ask no cheese, I swear you run the risk of it coming with no patty. Like
the only reason I know McDonald's still exists is because I have children. Like I swore off of them as an entity.
They're still selling 10 million burgers a day to somebody.
Oh, dude, they're not hurting for the ginger here, but like.
Don't buy it without the app. They've gotten expensive.
Oh, really?
Are you using the app? It's like shopping at the grocery store without the phone number. Don't do it.
Don't even ask me where my kids go to school. I'm the dad. Are we using the app? I'm going to have to ask Julie that question.
Don't be a sitcom dad. You can do better. Up your standards.
Do the app. Yeah, of course everybody has an app.
Yeah, you got the app.
McDonald's sucks. Okay, so conclusion.
It's like a huge savings.
Yeah.
It's saving like 60% the other day. Like it's ridiculous.
All right, plug in the app. Cool. McDonald's app, guys. I guess if you're gonna
Oh, it's not fun. I'm just telling you it saves money. And as everything's gotten expensive, that's money you could spend on Starfield.
There you go. Anyway, so your thoughts on Starfield, its launch. What are you looking for?
I just want to see that it's not going to have Cyberpunk issues because I don't have the confidence that Bethesda will fix them as quickly as Cyberpunk did.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to see that it's going to have a longer life.
Yeah.
Like God of War games are really high quality, but they don't have horribly long lives. And like from Bethesda products, I actually do kind of know them for having those longer tails. I feel like they're still probably yet to announce supporting even more platforms for Skyrim.
Right.
Like it's going to be 10 years from now, and they're going to be really excited to announce that Skyrim is just now coming to, I don't know, Fitbit. Like I don't know how it's going to work, but they're going to figure it out. And so like those are the things I expect from a Bethesda product. The ones that I think give them the name that we like. Yeah. I don't really care if it does any of the things for the ones we don't like. So like let's just ignore Fallout 76 altogether.
Yeah.
And those are all things you see after launch. So those are all things we'll see after today.
Yeah.
So I wasn't planning on paying $30 for the first week. Yeah. And as a Game Pass subscriber, it was like the whole benefit is my relationship with Bethesda got so much better because anything I've ever felt negative towards them is when I've given them money and they haven't given me a complete product, or they've made me feel like I'm supposed to somehow give them more money because I already gave them money. Like anytime in the past I've been frustrated at Bethesda, it's been about money.
Yeah.
And Game Pass just utterly removes that part of our relationship. They're just like a company that puts out games, and then I have access to them.
Oh,
Um,
yeah. And Crunchy Fries reminds us is remember, even if the core game itself is not that great, the longevity of the game can come from the modding community.
Absolutely.
And
Great
that's
point.
something that excites me greatly because the thing about this game and this launch, because like I'm not going to sit here and pretend like, oh, I'm the biggest Bethesda fan. Like I never vibed with Fallout, but I did enjoy losing hundreds of hours in Elder Scrolls, in the past. So I've always kind of had that theme. Fallout wasn't. I just never
I
vibed
played a
with
ton
it.
of the original Fallout,
But then
not
going
76.
into but beyond 76, screw that. I do think with a solid Starfield launch, I do think that has a lot of people go, hey, what are they doing in 76 once they like finish their time with this game? It does tend to kind of like in terms of how we like what's the last best thing you did for me or the last worst thing you did, and it's like, oh man, Starfield launched and I'm oh cool, and then it turns out all the updates they made to 76, you're like, hey, this isn't as bad as I remember. And so it has there's a knock on field that could happen with that. But the modding community is gonna be great. But this will be the first Bethesda game that I'm actually on PC for, because that like I haven't had really a gaming PC, and I just have been moving slowly more into PC gaming. So the mod community of itself, as a developer, has me really interested to actually go learn what it means to make a mod and play within the creation engine tools and see what I can kind of come up with just as a curiosity's sake, but then also to be able to, because I've always felt like we come from Final Fantasy 14 where mods are no to the mods, don't use them, but they're over here, and so I've always just been like,
difference in the way you and I have gamed is you've
Yeah.
always come from communities that were meant to stand alone, as opposed to like my original foray into MMOs was World of Warcraft, and so mods have always been a way of enhancing. And I came from like Minecraft and the Sims products and Factorio, and like these are the games that have held a lot of my attention. And so there's a lot of modding, whether that's done directly by the developer through DLCs or is supported by the community, or both. I've always been used to ongoing support being something that's like, well, how do we play this differently?
Yeah. And so like that's actually like, so I'm kind of a real big freshman into this case because like I like what I've seen so far with Starfield. Now the thing is, and I have a lot of confidence going into it because as I look at this last month and the information that has come out, like the developer brain in me kicks in, and so it's like I continue to, I mean, maybe it's bias or blindness that I'm not seeing red flags, but the release version, the version that is being released isn't 1.0 or 1.0.1, it's 1.6. And versioning is a big thing in my world, and that communicates something to me. And the thing that I wonder, and we won't know until we go hands-on with this game, but did they finish the game and then they said, how can we really truly make this great? Let's continue to iterate and work on this and release it when it's ready, which in this case would be 1.6, because version 1.0 should be your true release candidate. And then does this speak to the power of Microsoft and Game Pass, where they're wanting to release a big AAA game once a quarter? So 4 releases of massive size and scale every quarter. The only way that I think you could do that and be consistent is those games are finished and done, and then they're ready and they're slotted. So much like with the movies get finished and done, and then they sit, wait, and then they release. One of the things with the gaming is it's always been, oh, it's out, it's done, it's out, it's done. What do you think?
I don't think it was just sitting, because then what was 1.1 through 5?
Well, meaning
so
like
something's been happening.
Well, within the development cycle, they're still iterating on it. They're not, but meaning like here was our original version.
What do you think? What do you think came in 1.1 through 5? Do we get the patch notes on that?
No, I don't think we do. Bug fixes and quality of life. It would be what I would assume, because like at that point, like you're telling a complete story, you're doing these, these different things. And then it's just a matter of like, okay, let's, run through all of these different things. And because it is a Bethesda game, this is going to be a huge game, very complex, lots of different things. And given that time, because they were reporting that Phil Spencer was playing this game like in the spring. It was showing up him on Xbox playing the game. And it's like, okay, well, like what version of that is it? Is he testing it, or is he really living and breathing in it? And then is he coming back and saying, it's not there yet? Like, I really would like to see, this, and giving that kind of that feedback. Look, we can't say for sure. We will be able to know here, tonight when we get to go hands on with it, because one of the things that everybody knows, we've always called it Bethesda, is that it usually takes the modding community a little bit of effort to kind of really polish these Bethesda releases. And they've done something different with the modding community. They've like, kind of partnered with them. They even have like an official mod team on a part of, with Starfield, and so it just kind of starts to scream of, you know, kind of a new era. Like this is just like with horse armor and Oblivion. Like we can point to that, and now we can see of all the different things, both good and bad, that have come from it. With this and with an official mod and the ability for people to make mods and sell mods, like we end up seeing an entirely new set of, you know, ways that people support themselves and ways that games live on for 10 to 20 years that aren't service-based games.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, the optimistic tiny part of me would love to say that we're just going to let the market kind of do what's healthiest, but in reality it's probably whatever's most financially viable. And how it's received by the community is all about first impressions. You know, if it puts a bad taste in the community's mouth, it may always be considered a toxic aspect of what this did. Once it's seen as greedy or lazy or like any negative adjective that like, well, they just did this because. If they say they just did this because, and not, wow, they really expanded what they did. Like it's all going to be about perception.
Yeah.
And can the game stand alone without mods? Like a lot of that is, can the game stand alone without mods? To this day, there are still people that believe you cannot play World of Warcraft without mods. And they have done an immense amount of effort to, over the years, fold things in, especially over recent expansions, to make sure that somebody who has never played World of Warcraft and tries it out today does not immediately feel something's missing. Now, if you return to World of Warcraft, you're going to return to all your old habits. And so if you're used to having certain things, those things may still require add-ons, but there should be a version of the game that is playable for a brand new player without mods. And you know, that's the goal. Minecraft stands on its own. My niece and nephew play it they do not know that there is a mod community. And yet I only play with mods.
Right.
I only play modded. So like, you know, the game on its own stands there. So will Starfield on its own stand there? I think that's going to be probably the single biggest driver on how this, like, additional support, like, is it additional support, or is this like an active core tenet and the game can't stand without these people helping them?
Now, Karamak in chat says, launch being 1.6 gives me some hope. Both Tears of the Kingdom and Final Fantasy 16 were finished and done, and then spent around a year of extra polish before release, and both show this to the benefit of given that time. And that's where, ideally, like when we talk about gaming, like if every game could do that, like if every company could do that, we know the reasons why they don't is because they run up against that budget. They run up against that. If we're not selling the game, we're not making money, and it's just getting burned by paying people's salaries and keeping the lights on and things like that. But when you have that, you have that backing, and then you have that backbone, I think it hopefully will mean that we can kind of see more polished releases. From Software, I think, is another great studio that really takes their, and then they release it and it shows. And I think gamers are excited about that. And then this year alone, so we got Starfield launching tonight, but we've also had, Baldur's Gate 3 launching at the beginning of this. It's now coming to Xbox this year. They've been able to work out that deal and get that figured out. And so overall, like, this year alone, even with 16, I know that you're going to be playing it pretty soon. I haven't finished it yet. Like, this has been an incredible year for the RPG, but for gaming overall. Like, how do you feel about it? And we still haven't even finished the year. So I'm ready for Super Mario Wonder, man. Like, let's go. What do you think?
I only watched the Mario movie. It was great.
Good. Yeah, that's such a good movie.
It's on Peacock right now for any of you that have access to streaming services. It's included. I was watching, I don't know, The Office or something on there. So I think work to game is what, 8 now?
8.
And I feel like for the last 6 of those, maybe, we have been saying, what a great year to be a gamer. And so at this point, it feels like that's the trend. So my question is, where does that start to then cause it to overflow and push into other things? Has it made gaming over, what is very rapidly feeling like it's going to approach a full decade of great gaming? Are we going to get to a point where that's a more accepted hobby? And it's not seen as childish from somebody who doesn't know that adults play games, and they're
Yeah.
like, well, that's got to be you're a weirdo. And like does that start to help? And then what does that do? Like
Right.
as that starts to invite in a new definition of what a casual gamer is, as we've seen growth in sectors like mobile gaming, as we've seen growth in more casual forms of gaming, things like Stardew Valley and stuff like that. There's been whole genres that have just blown up that are just much more approachable for people that maybe typically would have felt pushed out. And it's not that games like that didn't exist. They just didn't circulate like this. When you have James Veach playing Stardew Valley, which is delightful to watch, it's like there's just something there that just wasn't there before. And it's in addition to everything we already had.
Yeah.
The hardcore gamers are still there. And esports is still doing what esports does. So I think it being a great year in gaming is more just a marked portion of the trend and a sign that I don't think it's going to stop. I don't think this is, we had a show a couple weeks ago and we kind of talked about, is some of this a delayed result? We had all this 2020 and there was all these projects. Is 2023 kind of oversaturated because you're getting the 2023 projects, but you're also getting some of the 2022 and the 2021 projects that just didn't make it.
Right.
But honestly, as we look out now that we're kind of over halfway through the year, it feels like 2025 is still going to be a great year for gaming.
Yeah.
And so I don't know that we're going to look back and 2023 is going to be just such a standout year that in 2030 we still remember. I think we're just in a really healthy time to be a gamer.
Yeah. Oh, I completely agree. So, anything else we want to talk about regarding Starfield? Because we still got lots to catch up on.
No, I feel pretty good about Starfield. I'm probably going to play it based on Game Pass. So
Yeah.
the $30, I knew it was available in early access. I just didn't know how much that was going to cost me. So you told me it's $30. I don't have 30 hours this week. So,
yeah.
I'd love to play it tonight, but I will just look forward to it on the 6th.
Yeah. And then maybe we'll see some streaming. You might think about putting that on your schedule for some streams.
Yeah, I'd like to start streaming on kind of Thursdays. But first and foremost, I'd like to make videos for YouTube. So today the plan is going to be to start getting that turned back on. And then as I get to where kind of I can have maybe 2 videos a week, then I'd like streaming to come back. And the goal is to actually flip my office around so you won't see this wall anymore. And then that will start with probably Final Fantasy 16.
Hey! All right. I'm looking forward to getting some more time with 16 as well. I've been, but it's like, hey, what are you doing? I started playing some Wayfinder. That's an early access right now, and I'm having an absolute blast with that game. They launched with, and people were like, hey, are you going to play some Wayfinder on launch? And I was like, I doubt I'm going to even get in. And that basically is what happened. I scheduled some Halo time, and Halo let me right in. We had a grand old time with this season of Halo. And so now that they've seemed to kind of have gotten that settled, it doesn't take more than a minute or two to get into the game, which has been a real treat because it runs on GeForce Now. I literally can play it on my PC and I can play it on my handheld. And so when I'm sitting back winding down for the evening, it's nice and fun to kind of jump in and run some dungeons in that game. And then also I've been playing some Halo. It's like I've been really enjoying this season. I do think they still need a big invitational thing, a big, announcement, whether they want to do that as an expansion or I don't know what their plan is with it. But overall, I think the people who are enjoying it are enjoying it. And then the problem that it runs into like you've shared, is how do you justify the hard drive space, especially on a Series S? And it's hard to justify because that's a huge game, which is 1/3 of the system. So
it's been a year slapping me in the face. It's not it's not just the hard drive space.
Yeah.
They spent, I feel like, more than a year slapping me in the face. Just at a certain point, why would I? There's so many great games coming out that I can't make time for. Why would I make time to go back to a game that just frustrated me? Been playing Age of Empires. Last night I played a couple games of Age of Empires.
Have you played the 4th one? Because they just added that to Game Pass and also on console. So y'all still playing 2?
I was playing 2.
Nice.
Yeah, that's just what the game night game is. On Wednesday nights when I play games with my brothers, and some college friends, we hop into Age of Empires. So last night we were doing some 3v4s, which is hard to balance.
Yeah. The what other games are you then like is that's on your schedule here for the rest of this year? Because like, is there anything outside like because
I
you'll
want
be
to get into
playing
the new Guild
Starfield?
Wars expansion.
Okay, yeah, that just came out. Yeah, I haven't heard much about that, and that's obviously like our biggest critique of.
They're a quiet game. Like
Yeah,
for how great they are,
everybody's like,
they
man,
just
should make it like Guild Wars.
they just skirt like they do what they do. They do it well. Um, I don't know. Like that might just be the nature of the lateral model is that there's never really these high moments. Like it's always come when makes sense for you and leave if you got to leave. Like I don't, it might just be the very nature of that model. It might be the way they run things, but it's a quiet game for how great it is. It's like RuneScape. Like it's always just kind of there, but it's never top of the directory. It's never the biggest marketing push. It's just hanging out.
Mm-hmm. The I guess the question then is that from Final Fantasy 14, like and the rest of this year, the updates are coming. We've been picking some dates. So I picked outside of 14 for New World, I picked October the 10th for their expansion, and they just announced it yesterday, and it's October the 3rd. So they're coming in a week sooner than I was anticipating and expecting. So I'm excited for that. But what timeline are we looking at? Because we do have the European Fan Fest for Final Fantasy 14 coming up in October and patch
Mhm.
5 6.5.
Mhm.
So what does that roadmap look like for you this year?
Play the patches, play the half patches, kind of stay casually involved, and then probably have a big ramp up going into the expansion. In my opinion, the 0.5 patch is the perfect time for returners. It's also, in my opinion, the best time to kind of pop your head up and get fresh air. So as we move into this cycle, like this is the time that if you want to play Tears of the Kingdom, if you want to play Starfield, if you want to play, any of these other games, like I think that like this is the time with Final Fantasy where it's a very maintainable part. And even for like raiders, like there's no other like truly hardcore content coming out. Like you were in a holding pattern until the expansion drops. There will be another criterion, but like those did not take people that long to kind of deal with. So there's stuff to do if you want to be in the game, but it's a very easy time to take a break if that's something you want to do. And by break, that doesn't mean you don't play at all. It just might mean, hey, this week I got busy at work, so I didn't play, and you play maybe 1 or 2 nights a week as opposed to you used to play all the time. And then that way you can come into Dawn Trail just really jazzed and hit it really hard. I'm really excited.
Any update on the your job predictions? We were talking about this like with Chili and Chad and all kinds of different things, and the question that keeps asking me is like, where am I at, right? Because it's like obviously the shirt gives us different theories. So for you, like now that we've had a little
I'm
bit more
probably
time
wrong.
removed,
I think I'm just going to go ahead and go down with the Corsair ship.
yeah,
Yeah, I'm probably wrong, but I think, I think there's some theories out there that I don't know. I don't feel confident in it. Like there might be a hole in this ship, but I'm just going to ride it. And if it sinks, it sinks. I have not been right on any of the previous job predictions, so I am used to drowning on these ships. So I'm just going to stay that. I feel like there's some safer predictions like female Roth that I can go woo.
honestly,
I
it's
did
such a
it.
it's
It's
a
also going to
prediction
have
that yeah.
MSQ and
Oh,
dungeons and raids. Like
yeah. Oh, yeah, new
alliance
zones.
raids, 3 of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The okay, so yeah, I was asked. My answer to the question ends up being because it's like regarding the turtles, they're like I like the heart wants time mage, but I fall into the pictomancer, or the artist kind of
Did the
camp
shirt
for.
change your opinion at all? Or because most of the theories I'm seeing is I think that the new class is insert X. And then the
Mhm.
shirt comes out and they go, and here's why that proves the class that I thought it was.
Now,
So
I
like
like for
I
me,
haven't
the
heard,
shirt did
and I'm sure
change.
they're out there,
Yeah.
but I have not heard that many theories about here's what I thought it was, and here's how it changes my opinion. And so I think those are the ones that interest me more right now. Instead of doubling down, I'm going to double down and
Yeah,
sink.
it's the one that it changed my mind. The shirt
Okay.
changed my mind. I
Okay.
was like hoping for time mage, and then it's like, oh, Caster, this is
And you think it's for
great.
sure not time mage because of the shirt?
Yeah, I think
Okay.
that's because it's
Because I've
like
seen
okay,
people saying Teenage Mutant TM Time Mage, and
Yeah.
so they just stick to it.
They lock it in, and so no, but like I think that, I mean, it's gonna be neat to see because we haven't really seen kind of what this could be as it relates to since Final Fantasy VI. So I think that gives them the ability to have a more obscure casting job that gives them a lot more flexibility as to the abilities and what they do. Like when you start to think about time magic, then you start talking about slowing and hasting and doing all that. Then you got to wonder, like, how does that truly impact the game? Because if you start popping out haste on everybody, like that could end up becoming so required that you just don't have a choice, right? Like that's what we saw happen in 11.
2-minute timer, people are going to be angry because if you end up with somebody in the party that's not doing it when they're supposed to be, it's just going to screw people's windows.
You might want to bring a time mage to help get everybody's windows back up and reset, because I guess you could have it instead of haste, you can have it clear up people's cooldowns. So like, hey guys, we're going to run this and I'm going to use this ability and all your cooldowns are going to be refreshed, baby.
They've got these windows so tight that like I just don't know that people want something that's going to adjust the windows, but maybe people do.
Who knows? We'll see what they end up ultimately fixing.
It doesn't impact the player that makes as many mistakes per minute as I do, but I understand why the math gets frustrating.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. So we will get the first reveal of what job it ends up ultimately being this October, and so that's what's your ultimate plan? Are you going to be someone who doubles down and rides it all the way up to the expansion, or are you going to be somebody who throttles it back because you said like 6.5 is the perfect time to really come in back and invest, or it's the perfect time to cool your jets and heal? What do you think?
I think that I'll probably hit the patches really hard and then take the times in between. So I think it'll be a bit more of like sprints. So I don't want to totally kind of rest and not have anything done. Like there are people who just kind of casually log in and they don't get anything done between now and the expansion. I don't want to do that. I do want to have some pushes, but I don't want to push constantly. And I think that also just lines up with everything. I'm training for a 100-mile race next year, and so like that's starting to take up a ton of time. Like I ran for over an hour yesterday morning and over an hour this morning, so like there's starting to be like a significant time component to that. Tomorrow I've got I have a 2.5-hour bike ride. So like it's starting to get where like there is kind of almost a part-time job just kind of building up for this race. And to like put that in perspective, when I started training for this, I'd never run a 10K, which is 6 miles. And so like obviously I've signed up for something that's like well beyond, and people are like, how do you even train for that? And I was like, I don't know. I hired a trainer that does these sorts of events and trains people for these sorts of events, and he is ramping me up. So I don't know. I just do what Tommy tells me to.
Are there any events between now and October that's scheduled for Final Fantasy 14? Like, are we looking? Is there any other live letters or is
seasonals? And then we'll still have live letters tied to the.
They're doing the 14-hour thing again.
And then so I think the next Moogle event is tied to the 14-hour, so it's going to run long.
Okay.
Instead of 29 days, it's going to be adjusted for that. So if I remember, I don't have my spreadsheet in front of me. That's just from memory. So we'll have the Fall Guys crossover event, as Moose said there. So like, yeah, there's definitely things that if you want to engage, you could engage. Not to mention, like, there's just a lot of little stuff. Like if you're into Island Sanctuary, there's something for you. If you're into Criteria, there's something for you. So finishing your relics is hopefully not just homes, but probably is. So there's something for you, something. And so like, if you want to engage, there's still projects to be had. I think the key to Final Fantasy is it does such a good job making things not mandatory that then people can say there's nothing to do because there's nothing you have to do. Yeah. There's always something you can do. So if you want to kind of manually mandate yourself as something is mandatory, I'm going to finish 2 relics this time. I'm going to finish all the relics this time, whatever. That is very much something you can do. You just have to put in the effort. And it's not a crazy amount. It's just chipping away at it. So I'm just balancing my time as I have other hobbies outside of game that have kind of, I'm trying to take care of myself. I'm down another 5 pounds.
Way to go.
So I'm down like probably around 40 total. I wasn't like, this weight just fell off just from the running. The first 20 was just hard work, but everything after that is just like now you have so much momentum and you're doing the things you're supposed to be that like it just naturally starts to align with like this is the direction your body's supposed to go. So I now weigh less than when my wife met me.
Oh wow, that's incredible, dude. Way to go, man.
Yeah, we met 15 years ago.
I'm not there yet, but that will be a fun stat when I cross over that barrier. That'll be fun.
Yeah. So she's never seen me this thin.
Cool. Well, hopefully it's a healthy thin and not a
Oh yeah, I still have jiggle around the middle. Yeah, when I run, there's still like a little muffin down there.
Little muff. The so then I guess
yeah, I could lose more. You know, but yeah.
Chili says the 14-hour stream is actually scheduled for spring 2024. So they're going to keep on that augmented schedule.
What's the new Moogle event kickoff on? Chili knows. Chili knows.
Yeah,
I don't have
Chili knows.
There was something it was adjusting for. Because I predicted it at 29 days. So
game says flex for the people.
There's no flex. Running doesn't build a lot. It doesn't build a lot. It doesn't like
crushing the weights, dude.
You just see it's just they're little. I have little baby arms. I met some of you in person at FanFest. I'm not a big guy. I'm getting thin enough now that there's like all these like little lines that appear just because there's nothing.
Yeah.
There's no fat there. But I'm not a big guy.
Very cool. Very cool. I'm trying to think if there's if chat has any other topics. We're actually ahead of time because it's like I'm looking forward to when I wrap up the show. I'm going to go start consuming some of these Starfield reviews, and the embargo is officially up, which I appreciate.
Do you like to watch the reviews prior to playing?
I like to just get a general sense of what people are saying, not what is included. The spoiler like that ends up running the risk because like I kind of want to experience it for myself, but I'd like to kind of have a general idea of like what are people like, what's the conversation shift to, because for the longest time we have like it's like, is Starfield good or not? Okay, interesting. And so what generally I'm looking for is like, guys, I played this game, like, you know, here's where I'm leaning, because I don't know if anybody like that's the problem with the review scores. Like there's like, is there like no game in my mind would ever constitute that 100, you know, 100 out of 100 points, because you can always be like, oh, that was interesting. But that's where people's, you know, it comes down to the opinion of that. What do you think?
I think 1 or 2 reviews is helping give you a barometer of like, if I'm going to watch 2 reviews from this game and 2 reviews from this game, it can help me steer left or right if I'm equally split. Yeah. Like if you're somebody who's like, I haven't played Baldur's Gate, I haven't played Starfield, which one should I play? And you just go watch a couple videos on both and then make your call. That makes a lot of sense to me. Yeah. But with Diablo, I have a brother who's played the game and he's just playing it his own way and he's having a blast. Him and his wife are playing couch co-op. They're not even done with the campaign yet. They're just going nice and slow. Anytime she's a night nurse, he works in lab safety. So they just, anytime they have overlapping hours, so they're just taking their time. They're not in the seasonal characters. They're having a blast. My other brother, his twin, is has not bought Diablo 4 and has consumed possibly every review put on YouTube. So if any of you have uploaded it, he's seen it. He watches all of them. And so then when we're in kind of game night chat and we're all talking about it, we're all having different experiences. Like I'm in my seasonal character. I'm playing with a couple friends who are in their seasonal characters. And we're all having a blast when I do get to play it. Hasn't been much in the last week or two. I'm level like 50 or 60. So I'm not flying. I'm the slowest of the group who's taking the season seriously. I'm the one in the back. And so he always has something, like the 4 of us will be talking about the game who are playing it. And then he'll just come in and tell us why we're all wrong. And like, here's everything that's wrong with the game. And here's all the things they would need to do to fix it. And it's super obvious and it's super simple. And there's no fun to be had until these things are fixed. But it's all based on this like library of 200 reviews. He's at this point, he's spent more hours watching reviews than we have spent playing the game. And so therefore that makes him this authority. And so like, I think it's starting to jade my opinion of reviews, because now I'm starting to get frustrated that like he's consumed all these. And so now he can't even enjoy the game anymore. Like he can't even download it because he already knows every flaw and every, like before you even get to the movie theater, they've already told you where every tile that's cracked in the floor is. They've told you about like every spill that's ever happened on the carpet. And so now you can't stop. You can't help but smell it. They've told you exactly which of the popcorn machines hasn't been cleaned out this month, and they've told you all of the employees' bad habits, and this employee doesn't wash their hands, and then everything wrong with every movie, and then where somebody at corporate has wasted some of the money where your tickets go. And so then at that point, like, you can't even enjoy the movie because you just have so many flaws revealed that by the time you pull into the theater, you're like, see, and that light at the light post is out because Jerry at corporate wasted the money on whatever. And it's like you're angry when you arrive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you just have nowhere to go from there. So I don't know. So I wondered your thought on reviews, because mine has been changing, and this has been recent. It's been like the last month or so that I've started to have this feeling of like, every review he watches makes me just want there to be one less review on the internet. Like,
I have to say that the best way to, because like a lot of people use reviews as a way of just justifying their own spending habits. And so you've seen a lot of people. Yeah, that's fine. Like, but I mean,
you did something good.
Like, hey, yeah, like people agree with me. Like, I like the thing that this person likes. Yay. But when it comes down to it's like, it's all about that personal experience that in my mind, and especially with things like Game Pass, they take away a huge amount of burden from somebody having to spend $70, $80, $90, and then realize, oh no, I got caught up in the hype and I really didn't like this game. I think it gives you a lot more freedom and flexibility where you don't have to essentially then go and say, oh, I have to choose to, and people better believe this because I don't want to accept that maybe this game isn't perfect. But overall, like I find them to be like, I find it that they're not as necessary as when they once were. And that the good thing that I think could come out of anything is that somebody was like, review copies should only go to the unbiased media. And I was like, so nobody then, because everybody's got an inherent bias. You gave this game to somebody who likes RPGs and this is an RPG. Automatically it's going to have a higher score than, oh, you gave this guy to this game to somebody who hates RPGs and this game's an RPG, and it's like, it's an RPG. So you see it all the time with MMOs, yep, feels like an MMO. Like, that's the root. Like, thanks IGN for that masterful review. Like, I didn't need it in this case, if that makes any kind of sense. What do you think?
I don't want there to not be reviews, so don't take my complaining about what he's consuming and then relaying to me, who's actually played the game, and he's telling me why I'm wrong, and he's never played it and says he never will because of all these flaws he already knows about. Like, if I have a free evening and my wife and I are going to like make dinner and we're going to watch something on Netflix, I like going out to like a review site and saying like, what's best on, or right now we have Peacock and we only do a couple services at a time and we rotate. So right now we don't have Netflix. Of course. But like, we're going to sit down, what's best on the streaming services that I have access to right now. And then I can have a little list of like 4 or 5 things that look like they're interesting. And I have like a synopsis and I have what they've done well. And I appreciate contextual lines that don't spoil anything. Like, I was told before watching Mario, it's a very fun movie to watch. It's not a great film. It's just fun. And so that's the mindset that I went into it with. And I agree with it wholeheartedly. I had a lot of fun watching it. It wasn't like cinematically astounding, but it was really fun. Like, I really enjoyed it. It was just fun. Yeah. And so like something like that, I think, does deserve a space like that. And so if you have somebody you go to for RPGs or for general Game Pass games or something like that, and that person was given a review copy of something, that's awesome, because then they're going to be able to kind of give you that synopsis and you can make a decision. I have time to pick one new game for one Saturday this month. Which one should it be? That gives you that kind of credibility. So I think those do belong out there. Where I think it becomes a problem is when we can then like binge hate watch and we can go around and around. And now we've got games that are getting like review bombed by people who have never played them. Like they've just, well, the 6 people that I watched all didn't like it. Therefore, I do not like it. Therefore, I know why it is bad. And it's, if you're going to consume reviews, like, it should just be to help your consumer habits. Either after you've already bought something or before you buy something. It should not then be like to send you on like a hate path. It's like hype in reverse. I'm already not the hype guy. So this is just me finding a new way to not like another form of hype. Like, it's just another level of hype, like where people are so aggressive towards something. They're like, I can already tell you why you shouldn't consume that.
Yeah. And how dare you
had it?
Stop having fun. Stop having fun.
RPG's awful. Do you like RPGs? No.
I hope that
Why
if
would I
anybody,
listen to you?
I saw a thing is like, I hope that if anybody gives this game a high review score, that they lose their jobs. And I was like, all right, y'all need to take a step back, buddy. Just take a breath. Oh my goodness. Yeah, it
What?
gets absurd.
So if
Now,
I put a positive score on something
that you should get fired.
from my unrelated job.
Yeah.
So I just finished a book, and I won't say what book it is because I did not enjoy it. And I just finished my 10th book this year, and it was the first time that I actively went out to leave a review. And that was because I left a 1-star review because it was objectively awful.
Yeah.
And so did not enjoy it at all. Will not tell you what book. And I left a 1-star review. So if somebody who really liked that book found out, even though that book has nothing to do with what I do for a living and has nothing to do with video games,
yeah,
I should probably be fired.
Yeah, that's the logic there.
And that's the end of Works the Game, guys. So let's shut it down.
Yeah, shut it down.
We had a great run.
1-star review on my favorite book.
I did. First review I'd left. It told me I should probably go leave some 5-star reviews for the books I've really enjoyed. But we don't leave 5-star reviews when we're satisfied. We go complain when we're not satisfied. I finished it, and actually I wasn't going to do anything. I was just going to end it. And in the closing words, they said, if you enjoyed this audiobook, please be sure to leave a review. We love hearing from you, and it's very important to us that we get reviews from everybody that's read this book. And I listened to books on my run, and I literally stopped my run, and I go, I'll give you a review. All right. And I stopped I walked.
You want to review
my run. It's like you asked me to do this.
Now, Cole Smith, as kind of our final little topic before we wrap up today, says a bit off topic, but have you guys seen the New World expansion information yet? Looks like some really solid changes. I covered it over at New World Central. So Cole, if you aren't subscribed, go subscribe over there. I have my both live reaction and breakdown of all the information of it. And today I actually put out a little discussion topic because I feel like what we've seen with the expansion, it shows us what New World is going forward. For your knowledge, Chris, they're taking the level cap up to 65. So they are going and investing more.
That in the roadmap.
They did not talk about the level. They talked about the gear score. Right. Yep. Well, no, not the level. They never said the level was going up. They said the gear score was going up, and the gear score is going up to 700.
So it is vertical progression.
Vertical progression. And in this case, 5. And I'm more thrilled that they chose 5 as opposed to like 10, and then you end up in 10 years going like, well, crap, you got 150 levels again. Yeah, everybody
80 to 85, 85 to 90.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate. Like I get the draw. I know it's going to change up builds, and so we'll have to see ultimately. But they're redoing a lot of that, and that doesn't necessarily come with the expansion. The level cap increase is a part of the paid expansion, so it's a $30 paid expansion. It includes mounts. They're redesigning a new zone, and we get the new weapon, the flail. That's going to be added with apparently optional shield. So it looks like that's going to kind of change up some of the builds and more. And so with these changes themselves, it's going to be interesting to see because this also feels like, at least from what they've announced, the same size as what Brimstone Sands was. But Brimstone Sands was free and they didn't label it an expansion. And I think essentially that was Brimstone was like, we're just going to give them this for free as opposed to charging for it as a, here's our, we're fixing the issues and we're adding in the more content. Because if you think about it, we got 3 new weapons over the course of year 1. And then we got one, one of those came with the Brimstone Sands update. And now with this expansion acting as kind of this next starting point, I am leaning into that we'll see an expansion a year from them at this same kind of time of the same kind of scale. New story, new acting. Like it has content for you, but somebody's like, yeah, the people are just going to be done with this in, 1 to 3 months. And I was like, yeah, that kind of is the model. People people leave Destiny after the first month or, 2 when the expansion drops and they come back for the next one. And you end up kind of having a more yearly cycle, than kind of something like with 14 where it does 2 years. So in this case, a little bit more than 2 years just to kind of reset its starting position for the summer. What do you think?
I think that vertical progression was where the game was headed. And so it just makes me smile that that's where it's ended up. I think it's the best answer for it. It's what gives them the most flexibility. It also probably means a pretty drastic change to the crafting and gathering system that will create something more vertical. So you are going to have some materials that become useless. That's just the very nature of vertical progression systems. And so I was told over and over that that's not going to be the case. But what's the brilliant IGN line you said earlier? Feels like an MMO.
Yeah.
It's very insightful. So
right.
I wasn't predicting from some level of amazing insight or some bold prediction on my part. It was, this is a genre that's well defined, and this is what's worked, and it has taken some very specific games, some very careful systems to avoid this, like Guild Wars. But in turn, we talked about Guild Wars earlier in the show, and you said, "Oh, I haven't heard much about it." It's like, yeah, they don't have nearly the fanfare. Like, if you want the fanfare, you have to stick with the things like that's. It's like finding a pattern in top 40 music. Yeah. Like MMOs increase level caps and gear scores. That's what they do because it draws crowds.
It draws people in. It gives them meaningful and understandable and easy to consume progression. And my hope is that with this, once you hit, the new thing, they can open up that, because I hate when XP expires. It's the same thing I want to see them do in 14 is like, just keep letting that bar fill up and refill up. And it doesn't have to give you more power. Just a, haha, thank you. Just way to
so what happens to like if a skill is at, I don't remember what the names of the things are, but like if the skill has gone to these post progression circles,
right?
Do those just pause and then the thing goes back to gaining the experience?
I think it has to, because they have that.
Now pick up. Do they wipe them and now it goes up and then those start over?
I think what we'll end up seeing is, that's actually, we don't know the answer to that, because it will be telling, because all the skills are going up from 200 to 250, and they already have the aptitude system. So I honestly think that the aptitude gets paused, and then you hit the cap, and then the aptitude gets back up.
So if you're at aptitude 13,
yeah,
and a half, it'll stop gaining experience the day the expansion goes live. You'll go to gaining experience. The moment you hit 250, your very next experience will now go push you to 14.
Yeah, that if they reset aptitude, I think a lot of people will feel like that extra, because there's a pride thing.
That's
there,
a
right?
Destiny 1 to Destiny 2 moment.
However, the other thing you could do, the other option that you could kind of play around with, is that you could start talking about that as like, well, that was that for that time, and so you would say at this time you got to 13, and then in this expansion time frame we start everybody here, but you could still see your 13. You still see that as a kind of a bragging rights. How high can you get this before the next one? And then it ends up just becoming kind of this set leaderboard where you're like, how many points can you put up on the board, in that expansion's time? Now, that would be the other option that you could go with. If you reset everybody back to 0 and there's no Hall of Triumph, thing like that, then I think that's going to feel bad. And that's, I will be upset by that, because it's like, I like the score. It's a number. I like making numbers go up.
Okay. So now another question.
Yeah.
So the new areas will probably drop higher levels of experience. So if you gained 13 levels of aptitude before, will 13 levels of aptitude be easier now? And in some way, does that devalue?
No idea. I honestly will have to wait and see, because it's like typically the XP seems to be fairly consistent. It's not like, oh, this is where you go to do XP grinding. So we'll have to wait and see if that kind of shakes up. The whole thing, it looks like it's getting, a new fresh coat of paint. The mounts, I think, are what a lot of people are looking for. There isn't anything I got out of this announcement that's bad or negative, and I honestly am looking forward to just stepping back in and on the 3rd for season 3. But yeah,
what do you have to spend to get
$30?
They announced that. Okay,
$30 for the expansion. They will have a bundle, as usual. And the question will end up like the next question is that with the next expansion, are they selling them a la carte like Destiny, where you have to buy them, or are they selling them like Final Fantasy, where it's just buy the latest expansion and everything is included? Simplifying it that way.
If it was going to remain lateral, selling them a la carte like Guild Wars does or Destiny does makes a lot of sense.
Right.
If you're going to have vertical progression like World of Warcraft or Final Fantasy, making people buy stuff that is literally old the day they bought it, just so that they can get to the stuff that's new, is very frustrating.
Yeah. All right, guys, thank you so much for joining us for our podcast today. We'll be back again next Thursday with some hands-on impressions of Starfield and all the new gaming news, any breaking stories that you guys want to talk about. Chili Pepper's talking about the merit system. The merit system in 11, though, to kind of differentiate it, does make you more powerful. It does give you an advantage. And if you marry it progression to that post leveling system, it becomes mandatory, because then you're you want to do it. But what I usually have been advocating for is just something that's more cosmetic and fun in nature. So more lighthearted of, hey, you got a mount, or hey, you got this, crazy glamour, or, here's a big old, thank you for just keeping to getting that XP. So yeah, like that, I wouldn't go the merit system, because that would make it mandatory. And you don't want people to feel like, hey, you just got to level 65. Now you got to get 500 more levels if you want to go run this expedition and this content. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for joining us. This will redirect you over to the live stream where I'll be hanging out with you guys for the pre-launch of Starfield. Go ahead, Chris.
Yes.
Are you going to be over on Twitch?
No.
Okay, cool. It's like you're confusing with that. And we'll be hanging out for that. I'll probably be hanging out watching some reviews. We'll be discussing all the different reviews coming out today for Starfield, and then we'll be playing some into the evening, and then I'll be live tomorrow doing some of that as well.
Nice.
All right, Chris, you got anything you need to plug or anything anything you got to say?
No, I'm going to see everybody next week.
All right, guys, we will see you when we see you. Thanks for being here. I'm going to end broadcast, and we will wave it out.